The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute professional automotive, financial, legal, or insurance advice. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the data and trends presented for the year 2026, repair costs can vary significantly based on vehicle make, model, geographic location, and specific shop labor rates. Always consult with a certified automotive technician or a licensed insurance adjuster before making decisions regarding vehicle repairs or insurance claims. Viewers are encouraged to conduct their own due diligence and seek multiple professional estimates for their specific situation. Imagine you are driving down a standard American highway in 2026. A small piece of debris flies off a construction truck, or perhaps a sudden hailstorm catches you off guard. You hear that sickening metallic thud against the front of your car. 10 years ago, a dent in your hood was an aesthetic nuisance that a local body shop could hammer out for a few $100s. Today, that same dent has the potential to result in your insurance company declaring your entire vehicle a total loss. Historical trends from the start of this decade show that collision repair costs have skyrocketed by over 33%, with the average 2026 repair bill for a front-end impact now hovering between $4,000 and $7,000. We are currently witnessing a phenomenon where 23% of all reparable claims are being categorized as total losses simply because the technology embedded in a modern hood is now more expensive to replace than the residual value of many used vehicles. This is the era of the $4,000 fender bender, and if you do not understand the breakdown of these costs, you are at risk of being overcharged by thousands or losing your vehicle to a salvage yard over a repair that should have been manageable. The reason for this sticker shock is a fundamental shift in how American cars are built. In 2026, the hood is no longer just a protective sheet of metal covering your engine. It is a sophisticated piece of aerospace engineering and electronic integration. If you are driving a newer model vehicle, your hood is likely made of high-strength aluminum or a complex composite rather than the traditional mild steel of the past. While these materials are lighter and help your car achieve better fuel economy, they come with what industry insiders call the aluminum tax. Aluminum does not have metal memory like steel does. When steel is dented, a skilled technician can often use heat and specialized tools to return it to its original shape. Aluminum, however, tends to crack or stretch. This means that a dent that would have been a simple repair on a 2015 Ford F-150 is often an automatic replacement on a 2026 model. Furthermore, repairing aluminum requires a dedicated clean room environment in the body shop to prevent galvanic corrosion. If a single microscopic particle of steel dust touches a raw aluminum panel during the repair process, it can cause the metal to rot from the inside out within months. Because only about 10% of repair facilities in North America are fully certified with the specialized equipment and isolation bays required for these materials, they can charge a premium that is often 40 to 145% higher than standard steel repair rates. Beyond the metallurgy, we have to talk about the eyes of your vehicle. In 2026, the hood and the area immediately surrounding it serve as the housing for Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, or ADAS. Hidden behind your grille, under the lip of the hood, or integrated into the latch assembly are radar sensors, LiDAR units, and high-resolution cameras that power your adaptive cruise control, emergency braking, and lane-keeping assistance. Historical data shows that even a minor impact that doesn't look bad on the outside can shift these sensors by a fraction of a millimeter. This triggers a mandatory recalibration process that can add $1,500 to $2,000 to a standard repair bill. You are not just paying for a technician to bolt on a new piece of metal. You are paying for a specialized diagnostic programmer to spend hours ensuring that your car's computer system can still see the road correctly. If this calibration is skipped or done incorrectly, your safety systems could fail at the exact moment you need them most, creating a massive legal and safety liability. The cost of labor in the United States has also reached an all-time high in 2026. Depending on where you live, the hourly rate you see on your estimate might look like a typo. If you are in a high cost of living area like California or the Northeast, you are likely seeing body shop labor rates between $160 and $190 per hour. Even in the South or the Midwest, rates have climbed to an average of $110 to $135 per hour. When you factor in that a standard hood replacement requires 4 hours of structural labor, 6 hours of paint labor, and 3 hours of mechanical calibration, the human cost of the repair often exceeds the cost of the parts themselves. Case studies of recent repairs for common vehicles like the Toyota Camry or the Ford F-150 show that owners are frequently surprised to find that the paint and refinishing alone can cost over $1,000. Modern automotive paint in 2026 often involves three-stage pearl coats or complex matte finishes that require precision blending into the fenders and doors to ensure the color matches perfectly under sunlight. This guide is designed to solve the confusion and anxiety that comes with seeing these massive estimates. By the time we finish this deep dive, you will understand exactly how to distinguish between a fair quote and a predatory one. You will learn the difference between OEM parts, which come directly from the manufacturer, and CAPA-certified aftermarket parts, which can save you 30 to 50% without compromising safety. We will break down the regional price differences across all 50 states, so you know if your local shop is in line with national averages. We will also explore the world of paintless dent repair, or PDR, which remains the single most effective way to save thousands of dollars if your paint hasn't been cracked. This video is your masterclass in navigating the 2026 collision repair market, ensuring that a single dent doesn't drain your bank account or result in the loss of your vehicle. We are going to look at real-world data, analyze the specific materials used by the top 10 most popular car brands in America today, and give you the step-by-step checklist you need to take to the body shop to ensure you are getting the best possible outcome for your situation. You are about to become more informed than the average insurance adjuster, and that knowledge is the only thing standing between you and a financial disaster in the repair bay. To truly understand why your wallet feels lighter after a trip to the body shop in 2026, we have to look at the anatomy of the estimate itself. Imagine a driver named Marcus in Chicago. Marcus drives a 2024 electric SUV, a vehicle that was considered cutting edge just 2 years ago, and is now a standard sight on American roads. One morning, Marcus finds a baseball-sized dent in the center of his hood. In 2016, Marcus would have expected a $300 bill. In 2026, his initial estimate comes back at $2,850. Marcus is stunned, but the breakdown reveals a mathematical reality of the modern automotive industry. The first line item is not the metal, it is the diagnostic scan. In 2026, almost every manufacturer requires a pre-repair and post-repair system scan. This is a mandatory safety protocol to ensure that the impact did not disrupt the delicate communication network, known as the CAN bus. Even if the dent looks purely cosmetic, a historical trend in modern repair data shows that physical force can cause microfractures in sensor brackets or loosen high-voltage cooling lines located just inches beneath the hood skin. These scans alone often cost between $150 and $300 before a single tool touches the car. Then we move into the actual material costs. We have entered an era where the United States automotive market has shifted heavily toward lightweighting to meet strict efficiency standards. If you are driving a vehicle produced between 2022 and 2026, there is a 65% chance your hood is made of an aluminum alloy or a carbon fiber reinforced plastic. Let us look at a case study involving a 2025 Ford F-150. Replacing a damaged aluminum hood on this truck involves a part cost that has risen 12% year over year due to global mineral supply chain shifts. The raw OEM hood assembly now retails for approximately $980. However, that is a dry part. It arrives at the shop in a black eco primer, not the beautiful metallic flake or matte finish that matches the rest of your truck. This brings us to the most underestimated expense in the 2026 repair market: paint and refinishing materials. In 2026, paint isn't just color. It is a chemical layering system designed for durability and UV reflection. A standard repair on a mid-size sedan now requires an average of $550 in paint materials alone. This includes the base coat, the pearl or metallic additives, and the high solids clear coat that protects the finish for 10 years. But the labor is where the real complexity lies. To ensure the new hood doesn't look like a sore thumb, the technician must perform what is known as a blend. This involves scuffing the paint on your left and right front fenders and spraying the new color onto those panels, tapering it off so the human eye cannot detect the transition. In our 2026 cost models, blending adds an average of 3 to 5 hours of additional labor. At a national average labor rate of $125 per hour, you are looking at an extra $625 just to make the color match. If you skip this step, the potential outcome is a mismatched vehicle that loses 15% of its resale value the moment you try to trade it in. Now, consider the case of Sarah in Austin, Texas. Sarah drives a 2023 luxury crossover with a specialized multi-stage paint job called Soul Red. When she gets a deep scratch on her hood from a falling tree branch, her estimate includes something called a 3-stage refinish. This process is significantly more labor-intensive than the 2-stage process used on basic white or black cars. A 3-stage finish requires a ground coat, a translucent mid-coat to give the paint depth, and a final clear coat. Historical trends in insurance adjustments show that 3-stage paint jobs carry a 40% labor premium. For Sarah, this means her paint labor alone exceeds $1,200. This is a crucial detail for any American car owner to understand. The color of your car directly dictates the cost of the repair. If you are buying a car in 2026, choosing a unique, high-depth color might look great in the showroom, but it represents a latent financial liability if you ever need a hood repair. Beyond the aesthetics, we must address the internal hardware. A 2026 car hood is a structural component of the vehicle's thermal management system. Beneath the sheet metal, you will find intricate heat shields, noise reduction baffles, and the active pedestrian protection system. Many modern vehicles are now equipped with pyrotechnic hood actuators. These are small explosive charges, similar to those in an airbag, designed to pop the back of the hood up by several inches if the car detects an imminent collision with a pedestrian. This creates a cushion of space between the hood and the hard engine block, potentially saving a life. However, if these sensors are triggered or damaged during a front-end impact, the replacement cost for the actuators and the recalibration of the pedestrian detection system can add another $800 to $1,400 to your total. Case studies from 2025 accidents involving European and high-end American models show that owners were often shocked to find that these hidden safety components accounted for nearly half of their total repair bill. You also have to account for the specialized hardware that holds the hood in place. In 2026, we are seeing a rise in active grille shutters and integrated hood latches that are electronically controlled. If your hood is slightly misaligned from an impact, these electronic latches may fail to cycle correctly, throwing a fault code that prevents the vehicle from being driven at highway speeds. Adjusting these latches is no longer a matter of turning a few bolts with a wrench. It involves using a digital alignment tool to ensure the gap tolerances are within 1/100th of an inch. If those tolerances are off, it can cause wind noise at high speeds or worse, cause the hood to vibrate, which eventually leads to metal fatigue or paint cracking around the hinges. To give you a clear step-by-step of what happens when you drop your car off, let's walk through the 2026 intake process. Step 1 is the visual inspection and digital blueprinting. The estimator uses a handheld 3D scanner to map the deformation of the hood. This data is compared against the factory CAD files to determine if the hood can be safely repaired or if the structural integrity is compromised. Step 2 is the teardown, where every trim piece, washer fluid nozzle, and underside insulation pad is removed and inspected. Step 3 is the procurement of parts, where the shop must decide between OEM, used, or aftermarket options. In 2026, the availability of recycled parts for newer vehicles has become a major factor in repair speed. If an OEM hood is on backorder, you might find yourself in a rental car for 3 weeks, adding an indirect cost of over $1,000 to the overall experience. We are seeing a massive divergence in repair paths based on the technology level of the vehicle. For a basic 2018 economy car, you might still get out for under $1,000 by using a local salvage yard and a mobile paint touch-up service. But for the average 2026 American driver, the hood has become a high-tech shield that requires specialized expertise to restore. This complexity is why insurance premiums have risen so sharply across the country. Every minor incident now involves a team of software engineers, specialized painters, and structural technicians. But what if there was a way to bypass this entire expensive cycle? What if that dent doesn't actually require a new hood or a $1,000 paint job? There is a specialized sector of the industry that most insurance companies won't tell you about, because it saves you too much money, and understanding how it works could be the difference between a 3-day repair and a 3-week nightmare. But before you call a PDR specialist, there is one critical factor involving your car's sensors that could make a cheap repair incredibly dangerous. We need to look at the hidden cameras mounted just behind your rearview mirror, and why they are the most expensive part of your hood repair. To understand why your rearview mirror matters for a hood repair, you have to look at the geometry of the modern vehicle. In 2026, most American cars are equipped with a forward-facing camera system, often tucked into a housing behind the glass. This camera is the primary eye for the automatic emergency braking and lane keep assist systems. Here is where the math gets expensive. The camera is programmed to look over the hood at a very specific angle. If your hood is replaced or even slightly bent, the reflection of light off that new surface or the physical obstruction of a misaligned panel can confuse the software. Historical trends in 2026 collision data show that a hood sitting just 3 mm higher than factory specifications can trigger a constant shadow error in the camera system. This results in your car suddenly slamming on the brakes because it thinks the hood's edge is a physical obstacle on the road. Imagine a driver named David in Phoenix, Arizona. David has a 2025 hybrid sedan. He decides to save money on a hood repair by going to a shop that doesn't specialize in ADAS calibrations. They bolt on a new hood, paint it beautifully, and send him on his way for $1,500. 2 days later, while David is cruising at 65 miles per hour on the I-10, his car's safety system detects a glare off the new slightly angled hood. The computer misinterprets this as a vehicle stopped in his lane and initiates a full emergency brake event. This is the hidden danger of the cheap repair. In 2026, a hood repair is not complete until a static or dynamic calibration is performed. A static calibration involves placing the car in a specialized bay with high-resolution targets on the walls and floor, while a computer repositions the camera's field of vision. A dynamic calibration requires a technician to drive the vehicle at specific speeds on clearly marked roads for up to 45 minutes, while the system relearns its environment. Case studies from 2026 suggest that these calibration steps add between $400 and $800 to the total invoice, and skipping them is a primary cause of post-repair electronic failure. Now, let us get into the granular breakdown of parts sourcing because this is where you have the most control over the final number on your bill. In the United States, you generally have 3 choices: OEM, aftermarket, or recycled. OEM, or original equipment manufacturer parts, are brand new from the company that built your car. In 2026, an OEM hood for a popular SUV like a Jeep Grand Cherokee typically costs between $900 and $1,300. These parts are preferred because they have a high-quality zinc coating for rust prevention and guaranteed fitment. However, if your car is more than 3 years old, your insurance company might push for aftermarket parts. These are made by third-party companies. While they used to be criticized for poor fit, many in 2026 are CAPA certified, meaning they meet strict quality standards. An aftermarket hood can cost as little as $400 to $600, representing a significant saving. The potential outcome here is a lower repair bill, but the trade-off can be thinner metal that is more prone to vibration or denting from small pebbles. The third option, which is becoming a gold mine in 2026 due to sustainability trends, is the recycled or LKQ part. LKQ stands for like, kind, and quality. These are hoods pulled from vehicles that were totaled due to rear-end or side impact damage, leaving the front end pristine. If you can find a recycled hood in the exact color of your car, you hit the jackpot. You can potentially eliminate the $1,000 painting fee entirely. However, the labor for a recycled part often includes an extra hour or 2 for a technician to clean off old adhesive, remove minor storage scratches, and transfer over your existing sensors and heat shields. Even with that extra labor, a recycled hood strategy can often cut a $3,000 estimate down to $1,400. Let us look at a real-world scenario with a character named Elena in Miami. Elena's 2024 luxury electric vehicle has a hood made of a specialized composite material designed to shatter in a specific way during an impact to protect pedestrians. This is not a part you can simply hammer out. When a heavy palm frond falls on it during a tropical storm, the composite cracks. Unlike steel or aluminum, which can be welded or filled, cracked composites are almost always a mandatory replacement for structural reasons. Because this car is an EV, the hood also features an airtight seal to protect the front trunk, or frunk, from water intrusion. Elena's estimate includes $60 for a new rubber gasket and $45 for specialized clips that are designed to break upon removal. These small nickel-and-dime items are where many shops hide their profit margins. A professional 2026 estimate should list every single clip, screw, and plastic rivet. If you see a vague line item for miscellaneous hardware for $100, you should ask for a detailed breakdown. Historical data from consumer advocacy groups shows that specialized hardware is marked up by as much as 300% in some metropolitan markets. We also have to discuss the role of the deductible. Most American drivers carry a $500 or $1,000 deductible. In 2026, with the average hood repair hovering around $3,200, the decision to file a claim seems obvious. But there is a hidden cost to consider: the long-term impact on your premiums. Case studies indicate that filing a single at-fault claim for a cosmetic repair can increase your annual insurance premiums by 15 to 25% over the following 3 years. If your repair is $2,000 and your deductible is $1,000, the insurance company only pays $1,000. If your rates then go up by $400 a year for 3 years, you have actually paid $2,200 for that $1,000 benefit. This is why many savvy 2026 drivers are opting for self-pay options on any repair under $2,500. To maximize your savings, you must understand the concept of labor time versus material time. On your estimate, you will see a section for paint labor and a section for paint materials. In 2026, the industry standard is to charge for materials as a multiplier of the labor hours. If the job requires 6 hours of paint labor, the system might automatically bill for 6 units of paint materials. However, if you are only repairing a small section of the hood using a technique called spot repair, the shop may still try to bill you for the full material count of a complete hood respray. Always check if the shop is charging for a full clear coat of the entire panel. For a high-quality, warranted repair in 2026, the entire hood must be clear-coated. If a shop offers to just clear-coat the corner where the repair was made, walk away. That edge will begin to peel and turn yellow within 12 to 18 months, leaving you with a car that looks like it has a skin disease. The final piece of the 2026 cost puzzle is the storage and environmental fees. Modern body shops are under intense regulation regarding the disposal of chemical waste and the recycling of metals. In 2026, it is standard to see an environmental fee of $50 to $80 on your bill. Additionally, if your car sits in the shop's lot while waiting for a backordered part, some facilities may try to charge a daily storage fee if the delay is deemed to be the fault of the insurance company or the owner. Being aware of these fees beforehand can save you a heated argument at the cashier's desk. But even with all this knowledge, there is a looming factor that can double your cost instantly. It is something called supplemental damage. You see, the estimate you get on day 1 is rarely the final price you pay on day 10. There is a specific part of your car's substructure, located right behind the hood latch, that is designed to fold like an accordion. If that part is even slightly deformed, the simple hood repair turns into a major structural surgery. We need to go inside the engine bay to see the parts that the initial 3D scan often misses, and why a $5 plastic bracket can lead to a $3,000 teardown. This is the moment where many car owners realize their quick fix is about to become a month-long ordeal. To understand why a $5 plastic bracket can derail your entire budget, we have to talk about the core of modern automotive design: the crumple zone. In 2026, the structure sitting directly behind your hood latch is often referred to as the radiator support or the core support. In older vehicles, this was a heavy, rigid steel frame bolted or welded to the chassis. Today, in the name of weight reduction and pedestrian safety, this component is frequently a hybrid of glass-reinforced plastic and thin-gauge aluminum. It is designed to be the sacrificial lamb of your car's front end. If your hood takes a hit, that impact energy doesn't just stop at the sheet metal. It travels through the latch, down into the core support, and can hairline fracture the plastic housings that hold your radiator, AC condenser, and most importantly, your headlight assemblies in place. Imagine a driver named Robert in Denver, Colorado. Robert is driving a 2024 electric pickup truck. He has a minor low-speed mishap in a grocery store parking lot, where he nudges a concrete pillar. The hood has a noticeable crease, and the initial estimate from a mobile app photo quote is $1,200. However, when the shop technician, let us call him Greg, begins the teardown, he discovers that the primary hood latch assembly has been pushed back by just 1/8 of an inch. Because the latch is bolted to a composite radiator support, that 1/8 of an inch of movement didn't just bend metal. It snapped the integrated mounting tabs for the cooling fans and the passenger side LED headlight. In 2026, you cannot simply glue these tabs back together. For safety and liability reasons, the entire core support must be replaced. This part costs $400, but the labor to swap it involves draining the coolant, disconnecting the AC lines, and removing the entire front bumper assembly. Suddenly, Robert's $1,200 quick fix has ballooned into a $4,500 structural repair. Historical trends show that 40% of front-end estimates see a price increase of at least 25% once the bumper and hood are removed and the hidden damage is revealed. This is known in the industry as a supplement, and it is the primary reason why repair timelines in the United States have stretched from days into weeks. We must also analyze the skyrocketing cost of modern lighting as it relates to hood repairs. You might think your headlights are fine because they still turn on, but in 2026, headlights are no longer just bulbs in a glass housing. They are sophisticated computers. A single headlight assembly for a modern mid-range SUV can cost between $1,500 and $3,000. If the impact that damaged your hood caused even a microscopic crack in the headlight's plastic housing, it is a mandatory replacement. If moisture enters that housing, it will eventually short out the internal control modules, which can then send a surge through the entire electrical system. Case studies from 2025 repairs indicate that insurance adjusters are increasingly aggressive about replacing these units at the first sign of a broken mounting tab. This means your hood repair is rarely just about the hood. It is a gateway to the most expensive modular components of your vehicle. Now, let us look at the labor involved in what is called R&I, or remove and install. On a 2026 estimate, you will see dozens of line items for R&I. This is because the technician cannot simply spray paint onto your car while it is fully assembled. To do the job correctly, they must remove the cowl screen, that plastic piece between your hood and windshield, the windshield washer nozzles, the underhood insulation, the emblems, and often the front grille. Each of these items has a labor value assigned to it, usually in tenths of an hour. While 0.2 hours for a washer nozzle doesn't seem like much, when you have 30 small components to remove and reinstall, you are looking at 6 hours of mechanical labor before the painter even enters the room. In high labor rate markets like Seattle or New York City, these small mechanical steps can add $700 to your bill just for the act of taking things apart and putting them back together. Furthermore, we need to discuss the environmental impact of the paint itself. By 2026, many states have moved toward strictly regulated waterborne paint systems to reduce volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. While better for the environment, these paints require specialized spray booths with massive air-moving capabilities to facilitate drying. The cost of running these high-tech booths is passed down to you in the form of a paint booth fee, or an increased paint labor rate. Additionally, modern finishes often include what is known as a matte or frozen finish. If your car has one of these non-reflective coatings, a hood repair is a nightmare scenario. You cannot buff or polish a matte finish to remove a small dust nib or a slight imperfection in the clear coat. If the painter makes even a tiny mistake, they cannot fix it. They have to sand the entire hood down and start over from scratch. Historical data suggests that shops charge a 50 to 75% premium for matte finish labor because the risk of a do-over is so high. There is also the factor of the vehicle's internal health during the repair. In 2026, your car is essentially a rolling server. If it sits in a body shop for 2 weeks with the hood open or the battery disconnected, the various control modules can lose their sync. We are seeing more cases where, after a physical repair is finished, the car requires a software flash from the dealership to get all the systems talking to each other again. This is another $300 sublet fee that often isn't on the original estimate. If you are driving an electric vehicle, the shop must also follow strict high-voltage safety protocols. This includes de-energizing the battery system before performing any welding or high-heat paint curing. Shops that are EV certified charge an additional premium for this expertise, often adding a flat safety fee of $200 to $500 to the invoice. Step by step, the way to protect yourself from these mounting costs is to request a line-by-line justification for any supplement. If the shop says they need another $1,500 because of a broken bracket, ask to see the digital photo of the broken part. In 2026, every reputable shop uses a digital management system that tracks every step of the repair with high-resolution imagery. If they cannot show you the damage, they should not be charging you for the part. You should also verify if the parts being used are new OEM, or if they are searching for recycled options. If you are paying out of pocket, you have the right to insist on a high-quality recycled core support or headlight, which can save you 50% on the part cost without any loss in functional quality. The potential outcomes of neglecting these hidden structural issues are severe. A hood that isn't perfectly aligned because of a slightly bent core support will vibrate at high speeds. This vibration acts like a hammer, slowly fatiguing the hinges and the latch until one day, the hood could potentially fly open while you are driving. This is why the 2026 repair standards are so rigid. They are not just trying to make your car look pretty. They are trying to ensure the aerodynamic and structural integrity of the front end remains as it was the day it left the factory. However, there is one more variable that most people completely overlook until they are standing at the counter ready to pick up their car. It involves your car's resale value and something called diminished value. Even if the repair is perfect, The mere fact that your hood has been replaced is now permanently recorded in digital vehicle history databases like Carfax or AutoCheck. In 2026, this digital stain can cost you thousands when you go to sell your car, even if the accident wasn't your fault. There is a specific legal process in the United States to claw back this lost value from insurance companies, but it requires a very specific type of documentation that most people don't know exists. And speaking of things people don't know, we have yet to touch on the most controversial part of the 2026 repair industry: the use of artificial intelligence in estimating. Some insurance companies are now using AI to deny claims before a human even looks at the car. We need to look at how to beat the algorithm and ensure your repair is actually covered, because the gap between what the AI says and what the shop says is growing every day. To understand the digital wall you are up against in 2026, we have to talk about the AI estimator. If you have filed an insurance claim recently, you were likely asked to take 6 to 10 photos of your car's hood from various angles using a proprietary app. In less than 3 minutes, the app generates an estimate. This is not a human looking at your car. It is a computer vision algorithm trained on millions of historical repair images. While this technology is designed to speed up the process, the potential outcomes for the consumer are often problematic. These algorithms are notoriously conservative. They are programmed to see surface-level damage, but are physically incapable of seeing the structural compromises we discussed earlier, like a hairline fracture in a composite radiator support or a shifted sensor bracket. Imagine a driver named Chloe in Seattle. Chloe's 2025 electric sedan has a dented hood from a falling branch. She uses the insurance app, and the AI returns an estimate of $842. It suggests a simple repair and a partial respray. However, when Chloe takes her car to a certified technician, he laughs at the estimate. He knows that the hood on her specific model is made of a proprietary lightweight alloy that cannot be hammered out without losing its crash safety rating. The real cost to replace and recalibrate the car is $3,600. This is the gap. The difference between the AI's optimistic math and the technician's reality. In 2026, the burden of proof has shifted to you. To beat the algorithm, you must insist on a physical teardown at a shop of your choice. Historical trends show that 85% of AI-generated estimates are supplemented by a human adjuster once the vehicle is actually disassembled. If you accept the initial AI check and sign a waiver, you might find yourself on the hook for thousands of dollars in hidden costs that the app simply ignored. This leads us directly into the concept of diminished value, which is the single most overlooked financial aspect of a hood repair in the United States. Even if the shop does a perfect job and your car looks brand new, its value has dropped. In 2026, every major vehicle history report tracks not just that an accident happened, but the severity of the parts replaced. A car with a replaced hood is flagged as having had front-end structural or cosmetic work. Prospective buyers in the used car market are naturally wary of front-end damage because it suggests the engine or safety sensors might have been compromised. Case studies of 2026 vehicle sales show that a car with a clean title, but a documented hood replacement sells for 8 to 12% less than an identical car with no repair history. On a $40,000 vehicle, that is a $4,000 loss in equity that occurred the moment the shop bolted on the new part. In most states, excluding Michigan, you have the legal right to file a diminished value claim against the at-fault party's insurance company. If you were not at fault, you can demand compensation for this loss in market value. To do this, you need a professional appraisal. In 2026, specialized diminished value experts use real-time market data to calculate exactly how much your car's resale value has plummeted. They provide a 10-page report that you then submit to the insurance company. While insurance companies rarely offer this information voluntarily, historical data suggests that persistent owners who provide professional documentation are often able to recover $2,000 to $5,000 in addition to the cost of the physical repair. This is not about profit. It is about being made whole for the actual financial hit your asset has taken. Now, let us look at the step-by-step process of documenting your repair for future resale. In 2026, a folder full of paper receipts is no longer enough. If you want to maintain your car's value, you need a digital repair portfolio. Step 1. Request the high-resolution photos of the damage before, during, and after the teardown. This proves to a future buyer that the damage was cosmetic and did not reach the frame or the engine. Step 2. Ensure the invoice explicitly states whether OEM or aftermarket parts were used. A buyer in 2026 is much more likely to pay a premium for a car repaired with factory original parts. Step 3. Keep the digital calibration report. This is a printout from the ADAS system showing that all cameras and radars are perfectly aligned. This document is worth its weight in gold during a private sale, as it alleviates the fear that the car's safety tech is malfunctioning. Another factor that is unique to 2026 is the impact of software-defined vehicles on repair costs. Many modern hoods now feature integrated LED light strips or solar charging film. If your hood has solar integration to help power your car's auxiliary systems, the repair is no longer a body shop job. It is an electronics job. Replacing a solar-integrated hood can cost upwards of $6,000 because the film itself is delicate and requires specialized electrical connectors that must be vacuum sealed against moisture. We have seen case studies where a simple hail-damaged solar hood resulted in a total loss of the vehicle because the replacement parts were more expensive than the car's depreciated value. We must also consider the geographic price variance within the United States. In 2026, the cost to repair a hood in New York City is approximately 45% higher than in rural Mississippi. This isn't just because of labor rates, it is because of the cost of real estate for the shops and the local environmental taxes on paint booths. If you live in a high-cost area, you might be tempted to drive 2 hours to a rural shop to save money. However, there is a risk. If the repair is done incorrectly or the paint begins to bubble 6 months later, you have to drive that same 2 hours back to get it fixed under warranty. Most high-quality 2026 shops offer a lifetime national warranty through a network of partner facilities. Before you choose a shop based on price, ask if their warranty is honored by other shops in your state, or if you are tethered to that single location. The potential outcomes of choosing a shop without the proper certifications are becoming more severe as car technology advances. In 2026, manufacturers like Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid have restricted parts programs. This means they will only sell a hood or a latch assembly to a shop that has spent $30,000 on specialized training and equipment. If you take your high-tech car to a generic corner shop, they might try to source a gray market part or a poorly made knockoff because they cannot buy the official part from the manufacturer. This can lead to fitment issues where the hood doesn't latch properly at high speeds, creating a massive safety risk. Always check for a manufacturer-certified plaque on the shop's wall or website before leaving your keys. But even with the best shop and the best parts, there is one final hurdle that can leave you without a car for months. It is the 2026 global logistics crisis. Certain specialized hinges and electronic latches are currently on a rolling backorder list that can stretch for 90 days. If your hood is unlatchable, your car is legally undrivable in most states. This raises a critical question. How do you navigate the rental car coverage limits of your insurance policy when the repair takes 3 times longer than the policy allows? Most people don't realize that they have a 30-day cap on their rental coverage, but the repair might take 90. There is a specific way to negotiate with the shop and the insurance company to cover those extra 60 days of transportation, and it involves a little-known clause in the consumer protection laws of your state. But before we get to the legal battle for a rental car, we have to look at the most physically demanding part of the repair: the actual structural pulling and alignment. If your car's frame has been tweaked by just a fraction of a degree, your hood will never sit straight, and your car will never drive the same again. We need to look at the frame rack and why it is the most terrifying machine in the shop. The frame rack is a massive, hydraulically powered platform that acts like a surgical table for your vehicle. In 2026, many car owners are shocked to find that a hood repair involves this level of structural intervention. You might think that a dented hood is just a surface problem, but the hood is attached to the hinges, and the hinges are bolted to the inner fender apron, which is welded to the unibody frame. If the impact that crumpled your hood was strong enough, it likely pulled those hinge mounting points out of alignment by just a few millimeters. In the world of modern 2026 automotive tolerances, a few millimeters might as well be a mile. If the frame is not perfectly straight, the new hood will have a gap on the left side that is wider than the right. This is not just an aesthetic issue. At 70 miles per hour, that uneven gap creates a high-pressure air pocket that can cause the hood to flutter, leading to potential latch failure. Imagine a driver named Thomas in Columbus, Ohio. Thomas is driving a 2025 compact crossover. After a low-speed collision with a deer, the hood is badly creased. Thomas takes it to a shop that specializes in frame correction. The technician, Sarah, explains that because the vehicle uses a high-strength steel unibody, they must use a 3-dimensional measuring system. This system uses lasers or ultrasound to compare the current state of Thomas's car against a digital blueprint provided by the manufacturer. If the laser detects that the radiator support or the apron is out of spec, the car is chained to the frame rack. The machine then applies thousands of pounds of tension in specific directions to pull the metal back into its original shape. Historical trends in 2026 show that frame setup and pull time adds a minimum of $500 to $800 to a repair bill. Case studies of similar front-end impacts suggest that without this step, the ADAS sensors located in the grille will never be able to pass their calibration tests because they are essentially looking in the wrong direction. The physics of 2026 vehicle design means that metal rarely just bends, it absorbs energy. This energy absorption is what keeps you safe, but it makes the repair process incredibly labor-intensive. When a technician pulls a frame, they are fighting against the molecular structure of the metal. If they pull too far, the metal becomes brittle and loses its ability to protect you in a second accident. If they do not pull far enough, the panels will not line up. This is a highly skilled trade, and in 2026, there is a massive shortage of certified frame technicians in the United States. This shortage has driven labor rates for structural work significantly higher than standard sheet metal or paint labor. In some metropolitan areas, you might see structural labor billed at over $200 per hour. Let us look at the step-by-step reality of a frame pulling session. Step 1 is the setup, where the car is anchored to the rack at 4 points to prevent it from moving while the hydraulic rams are at work. Step 2 is the measurement, where the technician identifies every point that is out of alignment. Step 3 is the actual pull, which is done slowly and incrementally. After each pull, the technician remeasures. This cycle repeats until every point is within a 1 mm tolerance. Step 4 is the stress relief, where the technician might use controlled heat to ensure the metal does not try to spring back to its bent state. This entire process can take an entire day of labor, which explains why your estimate has an extra $1,000 tacked on for a car that looks like it just has a dented hood. Another factor that has become prominent in 2026 is the use of structural adhesives. Many modern hoods and their supporting structures are no longer held together solely by welds or bolts. Instead, manufacturers are using aerospace-grade epoxies and bonding agents. These adhesives are stronger than welds and help reduce the overall weight of the vehicle. However, when a repair is required, these adhesives must be painstakingly removed and then reapplied using specialized equipment. A single tube of OEM-approved structural adhesive can cost over $100, and the curing time can add 24 to 48 hours to the repair schedule. If a shop tries to skip the adhesive and just uses traditional rivets or welds where they were not intended, they are compromising the crashworthiness of your vehicle. Potential outcomes of such shortcuts include the hood shearing off its hinges during a high-speed collision. Now, we have to talk about the hidden costs of the cooling system. Directly under the hood of your 2026 car is a complex network of heat exchangers. In a traditional gasoline car, you have a radiator and an AC condenser. In an electric vehicle or a hybrid, you might have 3 or 4 different cooling loops for the battery, the motors, and the cabin. Even a minor hood impact can pinch a cooling line or cause a hairline crack in a plastic radiator tank. In 2026, many of these systems use specialized coolants that cost $40 to $60 per gallon. If the system needs to be drained and refilled, you are looking at $200 in fluids alone, plus the labor to vacuum bleed the system to ensure there are no air bubbles. Air bubbles in an EV cooling system can lead to localized overheating and permanent battery degradation, making this a high-stakes part of the hood repair process. We also see an increasing number of active aerodynamic features in 2026. Many hoods now work in conjunction with active shutters in the lower grille that open and close to manage airflow. If the impact damaged the wiring harness or the motorized actuators for these shutters, your car might throw a check engine light or a system fault. These actuators are often integrated into the front carrier assembly and can cost $300 to $500 to replace. Furthermore, the labor to recalibrate the aerodynamic software ensures that the car remains fuel-efficient and stable at highway speeds. Historical data from 2025 repairs show that these active aero components are frequently damaged in what looks like a simple hood-only accident. To manage these costs, you must understand the difference between a shop that is a generalist and a shop that is manufacturer certified. A certified shop has direct access to the vehicle's repair manuals and data streams. In 2026, several manufacturers have begun encrypting their vehicle data, meaning a non-certified shop might not even be able to reset the warning lights after the repair is finished. This forces you to take the car to a dealership for a final software handshake, adding another $300 to $500 in sublet fees. Always ask if the shop has the specific software tools for your brand of vehicle. The potential outcomes of ignoring these structural and cooling details are long-term mechanical failure. A car that is out of alignment will wear its tires unevenly and may have a constant pull to one side. A cooling system that was not properly pressure tested after a hood repair could develop a slow leak, leading to an engine or battery fire months down the road. This is why the 2026 repair industry is so heavily regulated and why the prices seem so high compared to the past. You are paying for a level of precision that was once reserved for the aerospace industry. But there is one more thing that can turn a simple hood repair into a financial catastrophe, and it has nothing to do with the car itself. It has to do with the rental car industry in 2026. With repair times stretching to 30 or even 60 days due to parts shortages and labor bottlenecks, your insurance-provided rental coverage will likely run out long before your car is ready. If you are paying $50 a day for a rental car for an extra 30 days, that is another $1,500 out of your pocket. There is a specific strategy to get the body shop or the insurance company to eat that cost, but it requires you to understand the concept of a parts delay claim and the specific wording of your policy's loss of use clause. We need to look at how to negotiate your way out of a massive rental bill, and what to do if the shop tells you your parts are sitting on a ship in the middle of the Atlantic. This is the part of the guide where we transition from the garage to the legal and financial battlefield. Before we move on, we have to address the most controversial cost-cutting measure in the 2026 industry: the rise of 3D printed body parts. Can you actually trust a 3D printed bracket or hinge on your car? And how much can it really save you? In 2026, the arrival of industrial-grade additive manufacturing, or 3D printing, has introduced a radical shift in how body shops manage minor component replacements. For years, if you broke a small plastic mounting bracket for your hood's air intake or a specialized clip for the hood insulation, the shop had to order a bag of 50 from a distributor, leading to waste and delays. Today, many certified collision centers in the United States are equipped with high-resolution carbon fiber reinforced printers. This allows a technician to download the exact CAD file for a specific part and print it in a matter of hours. Historical trends in 2026 suggest that utilizing 3D printed non-structural components can reduce the cost of small hardware by 40 to 60%. Instead of paying $80 for a specialized sensor bracket that has to be shipped from a central warehouse, you might see a $30 line item for an on-site manufactured part. However, the potential outcomes of using 3D printed parts depend entirely on the application. While these parts are excellent for trim, clips, and secondary brackets, they are not yet approved for structural use in the hood's primary latching mechanism or the hinges. Imagine a driver named Jackson in Nashville, Tennessee. Jackson has a 2024 performance sedan with a unique hood scoop design. During a minor fender bender, the internal ducting of the scoop is shattered. An OEM replacement for the entire scoop assembly is listed at $1,200 and is on a 3-week backorder. Jackson's shop offers to 3D print the internal ducting for $400. Because this part is not a safety-critical component, it is a viable cost-saving measure. But if that same shop suggested 3D printing the hood hinges, Jackson would be looking at a catastrophic safety risk. 3D printed polymers, while strong, often lack the shear strength and fatigue resistance of forged steel or cast aluminum hinges. In a 2026 highway scenario, a printed hinge could fail under the intense upward pressure of high-speed airflow, leading to a hood flip event. This brings us to the most frustrating bottleneck of the 2026 repair experience: the logistics and rental car crisis. We have entered an era where physical repair time is often less than 10% of the total time your car spends in the shop. Historical data from the first quarter of 2026 shows that the average cycle time for a hood repair has grown to 38 days. The primary culprit is the specialized electronic components, specifically the hood-mounted cameras and the wiring harnesses that connect them to the vehicle's central processor. If one of these harnesses is nicked during an impact, it must be replaced. Unlike the metal hood itself, which can often be sourced from a local warehouse, these harnesses are frequently produced in overseas facilities that are currently facing a 60-day lead time. Imagine a scenario involving Maria in Phoenix, Arizona. Maria's insurance policy provides for 30 days of rental car coverage at $35 per day. Her car is in the shop for a hood replacement and a sensor recalibration, but the sensor is stuck in a shipping container on the West Coast. On day 31, Maria receives a notification that she is now responsible for the full cost of her rental car. At current 2026 rates, A mid-sized rental car in a major city costs between $60 and $85 per day. If Maria's car sits for another month, she is looking at an out-of-pocket expense of over $2,000, potentially more than the cost of the actual hood repair. To navigate this, you must understand the concept of loss of use. In the United States, if you were not the at-fault party in the accident, you are legally entitled to be compensated for the loss of the use of your vehicle for the entire duration of the repair, not just the 30 days specified in a standard insurance policy. Case studies from 2025 and 2026 indicate that many drivers successfully negotiate extended rental coverage by filing a third-party claim against the other driver's insurance. You must provide a documented statement from the body shop explaining that the delay is due to circumstances beyond your control, such as a national parts backorder. If the insurance company refuses, some 2026 drivers are turning to specialized consumer advocacy firms that charge a small percentage of the recovered rental costs to handle the negotiation for you. Step by step, if you find yourself in a parts delay situation, here is the 2026 playbook. Step 1. Demand a tracking number or an official backorder status report from the shop. Some shops may prioritize higher margin jobs and blame a delay on parts when the real issue is a lack of available technicians. Step 2. Contact your insurance adjuster immediately and request an exception. In some cases, if the delay is significant, the insurance company may opt to pay for a cheaper long-term lease or a rideshare credit instead of a daily rental. Step 3. Explore the possibility of a temporary fix. If the car is structurally sound and the only thing missing is a cosmetic trim piece, ask the shop if the car can be reassembled and driven safely until the backordered part arrives. In 2026, many shops are performing what they call a split repair, where the car is made road legal and returned to the owner for several weeks while the final aesthetic components are in transit. We also have to discuss the hidden labor involved in the 2026 paint matching process for these delayed repairs. When a car sits in a shop lot for 2 months waiting for a part, the paint on the rest of the car is exposed to the elements. If you live in a high UV environment like Florida or Arizona, the slight fading that occurs over 60 days can actually make a paint match more difficult. A shop that matched your color on day 1 might find that on day 60, the newly painted hood looks slightly too vibrant compared to the sun-bleached fenders. This leads to a second round of blending labor, adding another $400 to the bill. Historical trends show that prolonged storage in outdoor lots is one of the leading causes of post-repair customer dissatisfaction in the 2026 market. Furthermore, we are seeing a rise in something called storage fees. In 2026, many body shops are at 100% capacity. If your car is taking up a bay or a spot in a secure lot while waiting for a part, some shops have begun charging a daily storage fee of $40 to $70. While insurance companies usually cover this for a reasonable period, they will often stop paying if they feel the shop or the owner is not moving fast enough. You must ensure that your repair contract explicitly states that storage fees are waived during a verified manufacturer parts backorder. Without this clause, you could be presented with a $1,500 storage bill that neither you nor the insurance company wants to pay. The potential outcomes of these logistical hurdles are why more Americans are looking into totaled vehicle thresholds. In 2026, many states have lowered the threshold for a total loss. In some jurisdictions, if the cost of the repair plus the cost of the projected rental car and the diminished value exceeds 65% of the car's actual cash value, the insurance company will simply write you a check and take the car. On a car worth $20,000, a $7,000 hood repair and a $4,000 rental bill plus $3,000 in diminished value puts you at $14,000, well over the 65% limit. This is how a minor hood dent leads to a totaled car and a salvage title. But what if you don't want your car to be totaled? What if it's a vehicle you love, or one that is difficult to replace in the 2026 market? There is a very specific way to challenge a total loss valuation, but it requires you to understand the 2026 used car market better than the insurance adjuster. You need to know about the appraisal clause in your policy and how it can save your car from the scrap heap. But before we get to the legalities of totaling a car, we need to look at the most physically intensive part of the actual repair: the world of paintless dent repair. This is the only way to avoid the paint booth entirely. But in 2026, the complexity of aluminum hoods has made this one simple process into a high-tech art form that costs more than you might think. We need to look at why a PDR technician might charge you $500 for a single dent and why it might still be the best deal you'll ever get. To understand why paintless dent repair, or PDR, is the hidden powerhouse of the 2026 automotive world, we have to look at the molecular structure of modern car paint. In the past, paint was brittle, but in 2026, factory finishes are engineered with high levels of elasticity. This means that when your hood takes a hit, the metal or aluminum underneath can deform significantly without the paint actually cracking or flaking. This creates a massive opportunity for savings, but the technique required to capitalize on it has moved far beyond the simple suction cups and hammers of the previous decade. Today, PDR is a high-stakes surgical procedure performed with specialized LED lighting arrays and precision-engineered carbon fiber rods. Imagine a driver named Oliver in Charlotte, North Carolina. Oliver owns a 2024 luxury electric sedan with an aluminum hood. A stray basketball from a neighbor's driveway leaves a shallow 4-inch wide depression right on the body line of the hood. A traditional body shop gives Oliver an estimate for $2,400. This includes stripping the hood, applying body filler, sanding, and a full 3-stage paint respray with blending into the fenders. Because his car has a matte finish clear coat, the shop warns him that the color match might not be 100% perfect. However, Oliver calls a master-certified PDR technician named Maya. Maya uses a specialized reflection board to analyze the micro-deviations in the metal's surface. She determines that the paint is intact and that the dent can be massaged out from the underside. In 2026, the cost for this type of PDR service on an aluminum panel typically ranges from $400 to $700 for a single large dent. While this sounds expensive for a repair that involves no new parts or paint, the value proposition is incredible. By choosing PDR, Oliver keeps his factory paint, which is more durable and more valuable than any aftermarket respray. He also avoids the digital stain on his vehicle history report, as most PDR repairs are paid out of pocket and do not trigger a collision record in the major databases. Furthermore, the repair takes 4 hours instead of 4 weeks. Historical trends in 2026 indicate that PDR is the preferred method for 65% of hail damage claims in the United States, as it preserves the car's original assembly integrity. However, the step-by-step reality of PDR on 2026 vehicles involves a significant amount of labor that isn't immediately visible. Step 1 is the access phase. Unlike older cars where you could easily reach the underside of the hood, 2026 models are covered in thick noise-insulating blankets and complex plastic aerodynamic shrouds. The PDR technician must carefully remove these components, often dealing with one-time use plastic clips that cost $5 each. Step 2 is the heat management phase. Because aluminum is much stiffer than steel and has no metal memory, Maya must use an induction heater to carefully warm the panel to approximately 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This makes the aluminum more pliable and prevents the paint from cracking during the massage process. Step 3 is the micro-push phase, where the technician uses a series of hundreds of tiny, calculated pressures from the underside to move the metal back into place. Case studies from 2026 show that the complexity of these repairs increases exponentially if the dent is located on a body line or a reinforced brace. A body line is a sharp crease in the metal designed for aesthetics and aerodynamics. If a dent crosses this line, the metal is stretched in multiple directions. A PDR technician must essentially rebuild the structural ridge of that line by hand. If they push too hard, they create a high spot that is nearly impossible to fix. This level of skill is why master-level PDR technicians in the United States can earn upwards of $200,000 a year. You are not paying for the time. You are paying for the decades of experience required not to ruin a $4,000 aluminum hood. We must also discuss the limitations of PDR in the 2026 landscape. If the paint is chipped even slightly, PDR is generally not recommended as a standalone solution. Once the clear coat is breached, moisture can get under the paint layer and lead to oxidation, especially on aluminum panels. Additionally, if the hood is made of carbon fiber or a composite material, PDR is physically impossible. Composites do not bend, they shatter or delaminate. For the owners of high-end 2026 sports cars or high-efficiency EVs with composite hoods, any significant impact is an automatic replacement scenario. Another factor that is driving up PDR costs is the integration of thermal management. Some 2026 hoods have integrated heating elements designed to melt snow and ice away from the windshield and sensor areas. If a dent occurs directly over one of these heating filaments, a PDR technician must be extremely careful not to sever the electrical trace. This requires the use of specialized thermal imaging cameras to see exactly where the wires are located before they begin the repair. Historical data suggests that repairing a hood with integrated electronics carries a 30% labor premium due to the increased risk and the need for specialized diagnostic equipment. Let us look at a different potential outcome involving a character named Sophia in San Diego. Sophia's SUV was caught in a freak 2026 hailstorm. Her hood has over 100 small dents. This is known in the industry as a total panel PDR job. In 2026, the national average for a hail-damaged hood repair via PDR is between $1,200 and $2,000. If Sophia goes to a traditional body shop, they will likely tell her the hood is unsalvageable because it would require too much body filler, which could crack over time. They would recommend a full replacement. But if Sophia's car has a rare or custom color, finding an OEM hood and matching the paint perfectly could take months. This is where PDR becomes a lifeline. It allows for a high-quality restoration without the logistical nightmare of sourcing parts in a backordered market. Step by step, the way to determine if your hood is a candidate for PDR involves the light test. Take your phone's flashlight and shine it at an angle across the dent. If you see sharp, jagged edges in the reflection, the metal is likely creased or stretched beyond what PDR can fix. If the reflection is a smooth, rounded curve, there is a high probability that a technician can massage it back to flat. You should also check the edges of the hood. In 2026, many hoods are hemmed, meaning the outer skin is folded over the inner frame. If a dent is within 2 inches of the edge, access for PDR tools is often blocked by the hem, which may require the technician to use a glue pulling method. Glue pulling involves sticking a plastic tab to the outside of the paint and using a slide hammer to pull the dent out. While effective, this carries a risk of pulling the paint off the car if the surface wasn't prepped correctly, or if it is an older aftermarket respray. As we move deeper into the 2026 guide, we have to address the elephant in the room: the insurance company's role in your PDR repair. Many insurance companies now have preferred PDR vendors who use a standardized pricing matrix based on the number and size of the dents. However, these matrices often do not account for the aluminum tax or the complexity of 2026 electronic sensors. If you are not careful, your insurance company might authorize a repair that a high-end technician won't accept because the payout is too low for the required effort. This leads to a situation where only the least experienced technicians are willing to work on your car, which is a recipe for a botched repair. But what if the damage is so severe that PDR isn't an option? What if your hood is actually buckled? This is where we enter the high-stakes world of the total loss threshold. In 2026, the line between a reparable car and a totaled car has become razor-thin. We need to look at the specific mathematical formulas that insurance adjusters use to decide if your car lives or dies, and why your choice of a body shop can actually force your car into a salvage title against your will. There is a specific legal maneuver you can use to save a car that is borderline totaled, but it involves a complex negotiation regarding the salvage value of the vehicle. We are heading into the final stages of the 2026 Hood Repair Masterclass, where the decisions move from the garage floor to the claims adjuster's office. To navigate the high-stakes world of the insurance adjuster's office in 2026, you must first understand the concept of the total loss threshold. In the United States, each state has its own regulatory framework for when a car is considered a total loss, but the math generally follows a predictable pattern. Historically, a car was totaled if the repair cost exceeded 75 or 80% of its actual cash value, or ACV. However, in 2026, we have seen a significant shift toward a more complex formula known as the total loss formula, or TLF. This formula states that if the cost of the repair plus the projected salvage value of the vehicle exceeds the ACV, the car is gone. Because the salvage value of 2026 electric vehicle components and high-tech sensors is extremely high, your car can be totaled even if the repair cost is only 50% of its market value. Imagine a driver named Leo in Portland, Oregon. Leo drives a 2024 hybrid crossover with a market value of $32,000. A minor collision has buckled the hood and damaged the active grille shutters. The initial repair estimate is $9,000. In 2016, Leo would have assumed this was a straightforward repair. But in 2026, his insurance adjuster, let us call him Mr. Henderson, looks at the salvage value. Because Leo's car has a high-demand battery pack and intact LiDAR units, a salvage yard is willing to pay $15,000 for the wreck. Mr. Henderson adds the $9,000 repair estimate to the $15,000 salvage value and gets $24,000. Since $24,000 is less than the $32,000 ACV, Leo's car is technically reparable. But if the supplement we discussed earlier, the hidden damage under the hood, adds another $5,000 to the bill, the total reaches $29,000. Suddenly, the insurance company decides it is more financially sound to write Leo a check for $32,000, take his car, and sell it for $15,000, netting a loss of only $17,000 rather than paying $14,000 for a repair that might have further supplements. This is the moment where many American car owners feel powerless. But in 2026, you have a specific legal maneuver called the appraisal clause. If you believe your car is being unfairly totaled, or if the insurance company's valuation of your vehicle is too low, you can invoke this clause found in almost every standard U.S. auto policy. This allows you to hire an independent appraiser to represent your interests. They will meet with the insurance company's appraiser to agree on a fair market value. Historical trends in 2026 show that independent appraisals often find $4,000 to $6,000 in additional value that the insurance company's automated algorithms missed, such as recent maintenance, new tires, or local market demand for that specific model. By raising the ACV of your car, you can sometimes push the total loss threshold high enough to save the vehicle from a salvage title. Step by step, if you are fighting a total loss determination, here is your 2026 strategy. Step 1. Do not sign the power of attorney or the title transfer documents immediately. Once you sign, the insurance company owns the car and can move it to a salvage auction. Step 2. Request the full valuation report. Check every detail. Did they list your car as having a base trim when you have the premium package? Did they miss the fact that you just installed a high-end ceramic coating? In 2026, these details can shift the ACV by thousands. Step 3. Find comparable vehicles for sale in your immediate geographic area. In 2026, national averages are irrelevant. The only thing that matters is what a car like yours costs to buy in your specific city today. If the insurance company is offering you $28,000 but every similar car in a 50-mile radius is selling for $34,000, you have a strong case for a valuation adjustment. There is also the option of an owner retention of salvage. If the insurance company insists on totaling the car, you can often buy it back from them for the salvage value. Imagine if Leo's car was totaled. The insurance company gives him $32,000 minus his $1,000 deductible, leaving him with $31,000. If he chooses to keep the car, they subtract the $15,000 salvage value they would have received from the auction. Leo keeps the car and receives a check for $16,000. He can then take that $16,000 and find a specialized shop willing to do the repair for a lower price, perhaps by using high-quality recycled parts. However, there is a massive catch in 2026. The car will now have a salvage or rebuilt title. This can make the car difficult to insure in certain states, and can reduce its future resale value by 30 to 50%. Case studies show that for most drivers, owner retention is only a viable path if they intend to drive the car until it reaches the end of its mechanical life. We must also analyze the role of subrogation in hood repairs. If you were not at fault, your insurance company will pay for your repair, and then go after the other driver's insurance company to get their money back. In 2026, this process has become highly automated, but it can still impact your pocketbook. If your insurance company successfully subrogates the claim, they are required to return your deductible to you. However, historical data suggests that this can take 6 to 12 months. Savvy 2026 drivers often bypass their own insurance entirely and file a third-party claim against the at-fault driver's policy from day one. This avoids the deductible altogether and keeps the claim off your own premium history, though it often requires more legwork and patience as the other company investigates the liability. Now, let us look at the final inspection process, which is the most critical step before you drive away from the shop. In 2026, a hood repair is not just a visual check. Step 1. Use a digital paint depth gauge. These are inexpensive tools that measure the thickness of the paint. If the gauge shows that the paint on your hood is twice as thick as the paint on your fenders, it means the shop used too much body filler, which is a potential outcome of a low-quality repair. Step 2. Test the ADAS systems. Do not just look for warning lights. Take the car for a test drive and engage the adaptive cruise control. If the car feels twitchy or if the following distance seems inconsistent, the hood-mounted sensors are not correctly calibrated. Step 3. Check the panel gaps. In 2026, manufacturers provide specific gap specifications, usually between 3 and 4 millimeters. If you can fit your pinky finger in the gap on one side but not the other, the hood or the underlying structure is still bent. A case study from a 2025 repair in Atlanta involves a driver who accepted his car back with a slight misalignment. 3 months later, during a heavy rainstorm, water began to seep into the air intake because the hood seal was not properly compressed. This led to a hydrolocked engine and a $20,000 repair that the insurance company refused to cover because it was deemed a secondary failure caused by a poor initial repair. This highlights why the post-repair inspection is a non-negotiable part of the 2026 guide. You are the final quality control officer for your vehicle. The potential outcomes of a rushed or poorly negotiated claim are long-term financial leaks. Whether it is a lost deductible, a diminished resale value, or a car that never quite drives straight again, the cost of a hood repair in 2026 extends far beyond the initial body shop estimate. But as we reach the conclusion of this masterclass, there is one final piece of the puzzle that almost no one talks about. It is the future-proofing of your vehicle. With car technology evolving so fast, the way you repair your hood today dictates how your car will interact with the smart infrastructure of 2027 and 2028. We need to look at the upcoming V2X or vehicle-to-everything communication standards, and why an incorrect hood repair could literally disconnect your car from the city it drives in. This is the final frontier of the 2026 guide, where we look at the big picture of your car's digital life and give you the ultimate checklist to ensure you never have to deal with this nightmare again. The final frontier of the 2026 automotive repair landscape is the integration of vehicle-to-everything, or V2X, communication. You might think your hood is just a piece of aerodynamic metal, but in 2026, it is part of an antenna array that allows your car to talk to traffic lights, stop signs, and other vehicles on the road. If a repair shop uses a non-conductive primer or an aftermarket hood that does not meet the precise electromagnetic interference standards of the original manufacturer, you are essentially putting a Faraday cage over your car's brain. Historical trends in 2026 urban infrastructure data suggest that cars with compromised V2X connectivity experience 20% more navigation errors and are often ignored by smart city priority systems, meaning you might spend more time stuck at red lights simply because your hood wasn't repaired correctly. Imagine a driver named Ethan in Salt Lake City. Ethan has a 2025 luxury electric SUV. He chooses a cheap repair for a minor hood dent. The shop uses a thick layer of traditional polyester body filler and a heavy-duty metallic paint that was not on the factory-approved list. 2 weeks later, Ethan notices that his car no longer warns him about emergency vehicles approaching from a blind intersection. The V2X antenna, located just behind the hood seal, can no longer transmit through the lead-heavy paint and filler. In 2026, this is not just a nuisance. It is a critical safety failure. The potential outcome is a vehicle that is digitally invisible to the very infrastructure designed to protect it. Case studies from 2026 indicate that insurance companies are beginning to investigate V2X signal strength as part of their post-repair inspections, and a failure can result in the voiding of your vehicle's technology warranty. To ensure you never have to deal with this nightmare again, we need to walk through the ultimate 2026 hood repair defense checklist. Step 1. Before you even leave the scene of the incident, verify if your car has an active dashcam or a Sentry mode equivalent. In 2026, 80% of new vehicles sold in the United States have some form of integrated recording. This footage is your primary defense against an insurance company claiming that the damage was pre-existing or that you were at fault. Step 2. When you arrive at the shop, ask for the manufacturer's repair procedure printout. In 2026, every single repair must follow a step-by-step digital manual provided by the carmaker. If a shop tells you they know how to do it without the manual, they are likely skipping the critical bonding and calibration steps we have spent this masterclass discussing. Step 3. Specifically request a pre-repair diagnostic report. This report lists every single electronic fault code currently in the car's system. If you don't have this, you have no way to prove that a new sensor error that appears after the repair was actually caused by the accident. We must also look at the future-proofing of your vehicle's resale value through something called the Digital Twin Service Record. In 2026, many high-end manufacturers are moving toward blockchain-verified service histories. Every bolt turned and every gram of paint applied is recorded in a digital ledger that cannot be altered. If you take your car to a shop that is not integrated with this digital twin system, your car's digital history will show a gap. To a savvy buyer in 2028 or 2030, a gap in the digital record is an immediate red flag that suggests a cut rate, off-the-books repair. Historical data from 2025 and 2026 shows that cars with verified digital twin records sell for 15% more than those with traditional paper or PDF receipts. Let us look at a final case study involving a driver named Chloe in Chicago. Chloe's 2024 hatchback suffered hail damage. She followed this guide and insisted on a shop that provided a full digital portfolio. When she decided to sell her car in early 2026, the buyer's inspector tried to claim the car had been in a major front-end wreck because they saw the hood had been repainted. Chloe pulled up her digital portfolio, showed the 3D scans from the day of the hail, the PDR logs, and the final ADAS calibration certificate. The buyer was so impressed by the transparency that they paid her full asking price without further negotiation. This is the power of being an informed 2026 consumer. You are not just fixing a car, you are protecting a five-figure investment. Another emerging trend in 2026 is the use of self-healing clear coats. If you are paying for a full hood respray, it is worth asking if the shop can upgrade you to a reflow clear coat. These are specialized chemical coatings that use the heat of the sun to melt away small scratches and swirl marks. While the material cost is about $200 more than standard clear coat, it can virtually eliminate the need for detailing over the life of the car. In the harsh climates of the United States, from the salted roads of the Midwest to the sandstorms of the Southwest, a self-healing hood is a massive long-term asset. Potential outcomes for cars equipped with these coatings include a much higher gloss retention and a significantly lower rate of clear coat failure after 5 years. Step by step, you should also evaluate your insurance policy every 12 months. In 2026, we are seeing the rise of repair-centric insurance policies. Traditional policies focus on the lowest possible payout, which often leads to the use of aftermarket parts and the avoidance of necessary calibrations. However, newer policy types specifically cover OEM parts and manufacturer-certified labor in exchange for a slightly higher premium. If you drive a vehicle with LiDAR, carbon fiber components, or complex multi-stage paint, a traditional policy is a financial trap. Historical trends show that owners with repair-centric policies have 40% shorter cycle times because there is no back-and-forth negotiation between the shop and the adjuster over the necessity of high-tech procedures. The potential outcomes of ignoring the technological shift in 2026 are clear. You could end up with a car that looks good but is functionally broken, a vehicle that loses its value overnight, or a safety system that fails you when you need it most. We have moved past the era where a hood was just a hood. It is now a primary sensor housing, an aerodynamic stabilizer, a thermal management shield, and a communication antenna. By understanding the metallurgy of aluminum, the chemistry of three-stage paint, the physics of frame pulling, and the logic of AI insurance algorithms, you have equipped yourself to win the 2026 repair game. But the world of automotive technology doesn't stop at the hood. As we look toward the 2027 models, we are seeing the introduction of active morphing body panels that change shape to reduce drag at high speeds. These panels bring an entirely new level of complexity to collision repair, where a single dent might require a software engineer and a materials scientist to fix. We are just scratching the surface of how the modern car is evolving. If you think the hood repair was a deep dive, wait until you see what happens when a side mirror camera system needs to be replaced. There is a hidden world of glass-integrated sensors and haptic feedback systems that are about to change the cost of a sideswipe accident forever. We are moving into a future where the mechanical world and the digital world are one and the same, and your ability to navigate both will determine your financial success on the American road.